I made a video on this yesterday, and it's actually getting a fair amount of views. Let me just check the stats right now. Hold on. And people aren't as mad at me this time. And I'll tell you, yeah, so it's doing pretty good right now. Dang, it's got a high click-through rate as well. So I made a sequel to my previous video, Is DDP Good? Part 2. And I want to tell you what happened. And Justin, I want to get your thoughts as an MMA fighter in terms of what people are, who specifically is saying what about Dricus, what they're saying, and I want to turn it over to you to get your thoughts. So Dricus is once again getting critiqued. He's getting critiqued by 2 UFC fighters. He's getting critiqued by Shara Bullet, who I know a lot of people, even MMA Joey, I threw this out there in his live chat yesterday, and he's like, well, who the heck is Shara Bullet to say anything about DDP? Not that I necessarily agree or disagree, but Shara Bullet shouldn't be saying anything. And also the other person was Kelvin Gastelum, who we know had a really great fight with Izzy back in the day, but maybe has hit some rocky roads lately in terms of his career and weight cut issues and all that stuff. But let me tell you what they said, and then I want to turn it over to you to get your reaction. Calvin said that he was supposed to fight DDP back in the day. It didn't happen, but he knows that they were when he was game planning for him, that DDP has a ton of holes in his game. That's what Calvin said. Not the most disrespectful thing, but just an observation. Then Shara Bullet came out and said, I really hope Khamzat beats DDP, because he's like, I feel as though DDP has been getting lucky in his victories. I know it's crazy to say, but I think he's just been getting lucky, essentially alluding to the fact that he doesn't think DDP is that good of a fighter. Now, Justin, you've talked before about how DDP, from an objective standpoint, his technique is just not what people teach, and it doesn't utilize and maximize physics correctly in terms of generating maximum power, maximum speed, etc. So as an MMA fighter, seeing what DDP has done, what is your reaction to these new critiques from fellow UFC fighters?
You know what? I'll tell you. Well, he had a great response to Shara Bullet. I'm not sure. It was like, it's like if the world was an eye for an eye, Sahara Bullet would be king, or something like that. It was
very, very
clever. But you know what? I'm gonna sit down on this one, because DDP is undefeated. I've lost, 6 of my last 7. Who am I to tell the world champion that's never lost a fight that their technique isn't good, man? And I think everybody needs to sit down too, because I have come out and talked about his technique. It's very unorthodox, but that's probably, like, DDP says footwork doesn't work in MMA, and you know what? Who am I to disagree with him? You know what I mean? He's undefeated, guys. Nobody has been able to figure him out. Sean Strickland twice, Israel Adesanya, and originally, I made the statement that, oh, well, he's a decision machine, and you corrected me very fast that actually he's finishing everybody. And I was like, no way. I look it up, and it was crazy. Like, most of his wins are by finish. And that is just, that just blew my mind. And I'm done saying anything negative about DDP. He's grown on me as a fighter. He's beaten my teammate Sean Strickland. And, I don't know. I had a really great talk with Sean the other day. Me and him really, kind of came back together, and he gave me a hug and told me I'm his boy and stuff. So, man, Sean is fuck, man, to beat Sean Strickland twice, to beat Israel Adesanya. At one point, Israel was talked about being the greatest middleweight of all time. And no, he didn't beat him. He submitted him.
I think the first ever. I think one of the first guys to sub him.
Something crazy. So Kevin Gastelum, great fighter, don't get me wrong, but how many losses does Kevin Gastelum have? Sahara Bullet just lost recently. Like, I can understand Sahara being like, oh, I want him to lose. That's fine. We can all want, certain guys to win, and I'm sure he wants Khamzat to win, both, kind of being from the same side. I know Khamzat's from Russia, but I do think he has somewhere Russian roots tied in. And, if Sahara wants him to win, that's fine. But nobody's been able to figure him out, man. So I'm going to take a seat right now and let you guys know I'm humble enough to stop talking trash about his technique, because nobody has been able to figure it out, and I respect that.
Dude, I'm looking at Izzy's record right now. This is so crazy. Wait, hold on. But I want to come back to still talk about Dricus. But look, if you look, he'd never been finished by submission. Look at this. It's all TKO or decision. I mean, those are the victories. But look, decision, and then the first
wait. He lost? Oh, that's Izzy. I thought that was Dricus' record. I'm like, I thought Dricus was undefeated. But anyway,
no, Dricus is undefeated in the UFC. He's not undefeated overall, but he's 9-0 in the UFC, which is crazy. Dude, that's insane. He's the first person ever to submit Izzy. That's wild. So, but here's the thing. This is the part that gets this is where I get really tripped up with all this stuff. We've now had Shara Bullet, Kelvin Gastelum. We've had, I know, what's that dude's name? I'm blanking out his name, but the guy from the UK. He's out of the UFC right now, but he's going to come back. Anyways, whatever. We had another UFC. Darren Till. There we go. Sorry, I blanked out his name. Darren Till has critiqued him. And who else? Bilal Muhammad. Bilal Muhammad may just be talking smack, but he's also critiqued him, said Dricus is trash, all this stuff. The thing that's that why I keep coming back to this and why I keep making videos about this when it comes out is like, have you ever, and maybe I'm wrong here, but have you ever seen a champ this dominant who's beaten Robert Whittaker, Israel Adesanya, Sean Strickland twice? That's 3 former champs. Derek Brunson, he did beat Darren Till as well. I know he may not get that much credit for that because people felt like Darren Till's on his way out, but Darren Till's still a dangerous fighter. But he's beaten all these people and he's defended the belt. And like have you ever seen a fighter done what DDP's done, undefeated in the UFC, and get criticized the way he's been criticized?
Never. And it's just because he has sloppy footwork. But is it sloppy footwork or does he practice like that? Like, I'm done talking trash about DDP. I'm on the train. I believe in what he does. I really thought Sean was going to beat him the second time because, people are saying he has holes and, you can exploit those holes. And, it's just nobody's been able to do it. And you got all these guys critiquing him and saying, all right, then show up. Like, you look at Darren Till that is critiqued it. I mean, Darren Till was good at one point, but I mean, he's not even in the UFC anymore. So that's like me critiquing him. Who am I to critique the undefeated right. in the UFC world champion? Who is Darren Till? He got cut from the UFC. He never fought for a championship. He never was a top 5 guy. Like, who are we to talk about the best in the division? And arguably he goes out there and beats Hamzat. If he goes out there and beats Hamzat,
that would blow my mind.
Okay,
that would blow my mind.
I'm sure it'd blow everybody's mind, but it blew my mind when he beat Sean Strickland twice. It blew my mind when he beat Israel Adesanya by submission. Like, is it really out of the realm of possibility? I do think Hamzat's going to win, and I'll probably put money on Hamzat. But what if? Does that make him the greatest? Is he going to be the greatest after that?
That's why this fight has to happen, because whichever way it unfolds, whether Hamzat wins or DDP wins, it's going to like shatter the globe in terms of the mixed martial arts world. It has to happen. Okay, last thing I want to throw out here about DDP, and I actually really happy to hear all of this because this gives me a lot of perspective. How you're saying, like, I'm just not going to critique him anymore because maybe his footwork, he's actually onto something. And this brings me to the last point on this topic, and I talked about this in the video. Do you know what the Fosbury Flop is in the high jump? Okay. So for a long time, may have been decades, I don't know how long, I have to look up the exact history of the high jump, but for a long time, there was a particular technique in the Olympic sport of the high jump, the way that people would jump, approach, run, and jump up. And then there was this guy, Greg, I think his name was Greg or Josh Fosbury, whatever his name was. And then he came up with the crazy technique where they run, they turn, and they kind of like flop their body over the high jump. And it was really bizarre at first, and everybody thought it looked weird. But then he was able to achieve results and heights that nobody else could achieve. And then eventually the entire globe, and now everybody does the high jump that way. They all found this technique to be maximizing physics and body momentum and all the stuff. Now everybody does the Fosbury Flop. So it was a changing of the guard, a changing of technique. Do you think it's possible? And this is what I raised in the video. And actually somebody from South Africa, I believe, said Dricus has mentioned this exact technique before. So I kind of patted myself on the back. I didn't know that. But do you think that maybe Dricus is somebody who's revolutionizing the sport of mixed martial arts, and that eventually more fighters are going to fight in his way with his style?
Man, I don't know, because it's so sporadic, and how do you teach that kind of style? Like, I think some people just naturally pick it up. Some people are just, because I'm willing to bet when Dricus first started off, he was taught normal technique like you're taught or like I'm taught, and he kind of just developed this on his own. Maybe he had some success in training, maybe he had some success in some fights, but I'm not sure as a coach, and I've been coaching MMA for a very long time at one of the best gyms in the world, I'm not sure how you would teach this style, because it's just, I don't know, man. He's just foot to the gas. I mean, if I'd really have to like sit down and study, because here's the thing, when it comes to technical MMA, all right, you throw a jab when this happens, you throw a cross when this happens, you slip your head when this happens, you roll when this happens, you do a takedown when this happens. But he's just doing things not on a cadence. And what I mean by not on a cadence is he's not waiting for reaction. He's not looking for openings. He's just going. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I think
like when I slip a jab, I'll watch. Oh, the shoulder. So okay. For instance, here's a perfect example. When you're taught to throw a jab, you want to be here, and your hand goes boom, bang, bang. Well, what a lot of guys do is they'll do a hitch where they'll pull back and then they'll fire. So in my brain, in my P brain, when I see that guy start to pull back, my head's already getting ready to move. I'm already looking to slip to the side. When you have a guy just go bang, that's where you get that good quick jab. And that's when people talk about speed in boxing. They talk about guys, oh my God, he's so fast. It's not that he's so fast, he just doesn't have a hitch. Now, when you look at DDP, he just goes. He's not waiting to react. He just goes, okay, I'm going to go bang, 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 bang. And then he does whatever he's going to do. He's not waiting on his opponent to do something to react, or he's not waiting on his opponent to be in a position to do a certain technique. So I'm not really sure. Again, I'd have to really sit down and study his style. And man, if I coach Sean and we're going to fight him, I could maybe sit down and break it down. But I think it would be so hard as a coach because it's so just unorthodox, man. And I feel that's why a lot of guys, struggle. That's why guys like Lyoto Machida, Stephen One Boy Thompson, when they come in with that hoppy karate style, people are like, oh man, this is the revolution. This is where, MMA is going and karate's so awesome. No, it's only a couple guys have been able to figure out that style. But once you figure out the style, it's easy to beat. It's easy to beat. That's why guys like Lyoto Machida, they have short-term success. Stephen One Boy have short-term success. You look at DDP, you have all the best coaches in the world: Eric Nixick, Dennis Davis, Winklejohn. Nobody can figure this style out, man. And eventually maybe they do, but I don't know how they're going to figure it out because, again, he's not waiting for his opposition to be in a certain situation. He's not reacting off feints. He's just going, man. You just don't know when he's going to go. And then when he goes, you find yourself on the defense. It's like a blitzing technique that it's like, here, go. Just go crazy and run at him and do crazy stuff. And you just don't have a time to react. And there's nothing about his style that's telegraphed. He just goes, man. And I'm not saying he can't get clipped coming in. Of course he can. But it's just, man, nobody's been able to figure it out yet. Not any fighters, not the best coaches in the world. And until someone figures this out, I'm not really sure. Again, I have not sat down and broke down DDP's fighting style. I have no reason to. I don't have a fighter that's going to fight him. And I don't care to learn his style because it's one person in the whole world that's been able to put. So I don't like to put, we look at things as a whole. You know what I mean? He's one anomaly. Why study his style and work? Nobody I've ever fought is ever going to fight like him. Nobody I coach is ever going to fight a fighter like him unless we get to the middleweight championship. So I have no reason to break down his style. And I think that's what happens too with a lot of coaches. When you have one guy that's doing it, why sit down and watch his style to learn? Because not more than likely, you're not ever going to have to fight him or a guy like him.
And it won't apply, right, to other fighters. So that makes total sense.
Yes,
See,
exactly.
I'm so glad we're having this conversation because this really is making a lot of sense to me now, and also gives a really good explanation as to why he's also having this great success. And obviously, not to mention, look, I made it clear at the beginning of that video, I'm a big fan of Dricus. And somebody says here, Johnny Monday says, I'm curious to hear Justin's thoughts on DDP's athleticism and his natural strength and his explosiveness, because again, that's also part of it. We can see his mind, his mental toughness is unparalleled, both when it comes to talking smack and like he just doesn't get phased, but also in the octagon, he seems like he has no fear, no hesitation. So I'm sure all of those factors together, plus he's got a different, unique style, plays to his advantage. So it's very, very interesting. I want to highlight a couple other comments that let me
answer Johnny because he asked me directly. Yes. Dude, it's when you look at his physique, the guy Sean, and I talked to Sean just the other day. I have this new, and I'm not going to get in depth into it, but me and Sean, I made that video about it, and we started beefing a lot. We beefed over line. He made some Sean Strickland threats to me, no problem. And he saw me the other day in the gym, called me to the side, and we hashed it out, man. And what a freaking man that guy is, man. I've always liked Sean. He's just an incredible guy. But now let's talk about Sean as a fighter, man. People don't like his style. Sean is one of the toughest guys in the gym. I watch him walk through world champions every day. So when you look at someone like DDP, who's able to use his strength and use his size and speed and athleticism, he is the perfect combination for his style because of his size, because of his strength, because of his athleticism. Now, when you look at somebody in football, let's look at Barry Sanders. All right, Barry Sanders, arguably the greatest running back of all time. To me, he's the greatest running back. He played for the Detroit Lions, my favorite team. Barry Sanders, many people don't know this, was not fast. He was not fast. His 40 time wasn't great. I'm not going to say what it was because I don't know, but I know that his 40 time wasn't a 4.2 or a 4.3. You could look it up. It probably
I'll look it up right now.
I can't look it up. But Barry Sanders wasn't fast, but his lateral movement, he could shift side to side as fast as he could go forward and backwards. So his athleticism made up for his lack in speed. So I think when it comes to DDP, his athleticism, strength, and speed make up for that lack of footwork, that lack of, and I say lack of footwork because, again, he's using his side, his strength, and his speed, just like Barry Sanders. Wasn't the fastest going forward, but man, he could go left to right and make people miss and make people look stupid. And when you look at, there's a statue in Detroit now of Barry Sanders, and when you look at the statue, it's a picture of Barry. His head is over here and his feet are over here. He's almost perpendicular to the ground, but he's on his feet. And that's how he can make guys miss. And, Barry Sanders, what he lacked for in speed, he made up for in maneuverability and athleticism, being able to go side to side laterally. And that's what I think DDP is making. What he lacks in footwork, he makes up for in speed and athleticism and unpredictableness.
There you go. We're going to clip this whole entire discussion and turn it into a video, because I think this is an incredible conversation specifically about DDP, especially on the heels of the video I made yesterday. This is very, very cool. Okay, we're going to pull out a couple more comments before we move on. Andrew Nance asked, Justin, how is Sean and Coach Eric? I don't know if you want to get into that or not, but no. Okay.
No comment.
No comment. We're not going to talk about that. Okay.
I can't talk about it.
Yeah. Totally get it. Just thought I'd throw it out there. DDP is one of a kind, totally unique. I would like to see other guys fight out of the gym DDP trains, and if it's similar, yes, I would like to see that too. We have somebody new, lice infested views. What's up with this name?
What's up? I love it.
What's up with that? What's up with that image? I don't know what that image is, but he says, hello, everyone. What's up? Well, welcome. And he's saying hi to Andrew. And then last thing we're going to say, Muttball says, the Fosbury Flop is a great example. That's the technique I was telling you about for the high jump. It's a meta way of fighting where it's so goofy that it throws off everyone's timing and they don't know how to respond, like Ali keeping his hands low to throw off others. I mean, look, we may all look back on this and then it all makes sense, years from now. Like, oh my God, DDP was undefeated in the UFC. He went 20-0 in the UFC. And now when people look back, they realize that the whole secret sauce was just keeping fighters confused and off their toes. And now other people are emulating that to be a bit more varied. It'll all make sense at some point. Now, the last thing I want to say, and I said this in the video, is, Johnny Monday says, thanks to Justin for taking the time to answer my question. Great insights. Yes. The last thing I'll say is I hope people recognize too that if Dricus does lose to Khamzat, which I do believe is going to happen, I don't think it takes anything away from DDP. I just think that, Khamzat is just on another level, and DDP would still probably smash everybody else, but
listen, and you're getting ahead of yourself. I know you're a Khamzat fan. You stroke yourself at night thinking about Khamzat, man. I can hear
all
it
the time.
But listen, the fight hasn't happened yet, man. And I'm on your side right now. I think Khamzat is going to beat him. But what if he doesn't?
It's going to be so crazy. If
Remember, Khamzat people have talked about Khamzat having problems in the 4th and 5th round. DDP, although he looks tired all the time, and that's one thing I didn't care for him. I was like, oh, dude, Sean's going to take him to deep water and beat him. But although he looks tired, he's always has output. And I can really see Khamzat coming there, whooping his ass first round, whooping his ass second round. Maybe it's a close 3rd round, and DDP taking him to deep water and finishing him in the 5th round. I'm not saying that's going to happen.
For sure. I know.
I'm going to bet that. I'm taking the second half of that fight. I think DDP can beat him in the second half of the fight.
We need the announcement for this fight. Is driving me crazy. It's like on a silver platter, the greatest fight possibly of my time as a UFC fan. I'd be more excited for this fight than Conor Khabib, than John Jones versus Tom Aspinall. And there's no fight you can name. Islam Topuria, not even close. There's no fight you can name that they have to make this fight.